I am so delighted. I couldn't find a better way to celebrate my birthday than to honor and celebrate the life of my mom and my papa, my spiritual parents, Dr. Myles and Ruth Munroe, to celebrate their life and such a blessing that they have been in my life. I'm going to share with you tons of things in terms of our relationship. Several years ago, the Lord had given me a phrase. I coined the phrase single, saved, and having sex. And when the Lord woke me up in the middle of the night and gave me that title to write a book, I was hysterical and kind of like pulling out my hair because I certainly was not a candidate to write a book, but I was the perfect candidate to write something of that magnitude with that title. That was something that I struggled with tremendously. And after the Lord healed and delivered me from my sexual struggles, then the Lord began to minister to me and began to download messages in me in regards to writing this book. And so I would wake up like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning every night and write. I had no idea that I was writing the book. I was just writing in my journal until the Lord revealed to me that that is exactly what I was writing. Now, mind you, I'm still not thinking hardcover, paperback book, bind it, and put it on shelves and sell it. No, I was probably going to staple it and pass it out to a few of my friends. At the particular time, I was in radio sales. A friend of mine had called me up while I was down at the radio station. She says, "Hey, Dr. Myles Munroe is in town, and I'm going to go and interview him. You want to roll with me?" Now, anybody who knows me, I absolutely love and adore Dr. Myles Munroe. And so when she asked me, I was like, "What do you want me to do? I'll wash your feet. I'll clean your house, whatever you want me to do." She says, "No, just leave the station. Come on and go with me." And so we drive over to the location they were going to do the shoot. It was just her cameraman, and there it is, the Dr. Myles Munroe sitting there waiting. The camera guy is setting up, and my friend, she's over there putting on her makeup, and I'm standing over in the corner like a giddy little kid, like, "Oh my God, Myles Munroe." And so he's sitting there on the couch, and he points, and he says, "Come here." So I turn around and look like, he's like, "You, hello, it's only like 2.3 people in the room." He calls me, and he says, "Come on over, sit down." And we begin to talk, and he says, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I work for a radio station. I do radio sales. I'm a marketing manager over there." He says, "No, what do you really do?" I'm thinking, like, is this guy gonna snap, crackle, pop? Like, what in the world? I just told you I work for the radio station. He says, "No, what do you really do? What were you born to do?" And any of you who know Dr. Myles Munroe, that is what he is. Purpose and potential. If you were ever in his presence, that would probably be the resounding question that he would ask you. It was one of the mandates that he had on his life, was to incite or to kind of wake up the purpose within us that was lying dormant. And of course, that's essentially what happened when I had met him. And so I was sitting there on the couch, and he says, "So tell me, what were you born to do?" And I says, "Well, I don't know. I'm writing a book." And he says, "Oh, you're an author." And I'm thinking, no, I'm writing a book. I told you, I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to staple this book together. I'm not going to be an author. And he says, "Tell me a little bit about the book." And so I began to tell him about it. And anybody who knows me, I'm passionate about sexual purity, holiness, and a lifestyle that's committed to Christ fully. So I'm sitting on the couch. I forget that I'm sitting there with the Dr. Myles Munroe, and I'm preaching, and I'm getting ready to do an altar call and see if he really saved. And he saw that I was beyond passionate, and so he says to me a question that I'll never forget. He says, "Do you believe that the Lord has called you to do this?" And I said, "In all due respect, Dr. Munroe, if the Lord did not call me to do this, then I would not be sitting here on this couch here with you, because I have to face him again today." After that, he says, "Well, will you allow me to do the foreword on your book?" And I'm thinking, are you kidding me.com? The foreword on my book. Listen, I was in complete shock. I didn't think didn't hear a word after that from anyone at that point. I called my sister Toy on the phone, and I told her, she's screaming on the phone. She was like, "What? Myles Munroe is going to do the foreword on your book?" And I was like, I have to call you back. I couldn't even sit on the phone with her. And that day I was just crying before the Lord, weeping that the Lord had favored me because of the wisdom that I had been following Dr. Munroe at that time for quite some time. And his teachings impact my life, literally changed it. And here it is that he is now asking me to do the foreword on my book. So one day I walk into the radio station and I go to my mailbox and I pull out all my mail, and then I see this letter from Dr. Myles Munroe from Bahamas Faith Ministry. And I'm like, oh my, you are kidding me. So I open up the letter. He has this long letter in there, and he's basically kind of confronted me like, where is the manuscript? You never sent it to me. And I'll never forget this line in the letter. It said, it's better to be prepared than not be prepared, so that when an opportunity comes, you are ready. I read that letter in like total disbelief. I was like, this guy is really serious. You would think that if someone asked you to do the foreword on your book and you didn't send the manuscript, it would be like, oh, well, it's their loss. But no, not Papa. He was the kind that if he knew that there was something locked there on the inside of you, he was going to drive that thing out of you. He would drive you crazy. He would call you at 2 o'clock in the morning and wake you up, because that was just how he was. That was what his life was in terms of purpose and pulling that up out of others. I was walking around for a couple weeks in disbelief that I couldn't believe that this was happening to me, that the Lord had favored me in such a way, because the Lord was serious, not because of tithe, but because he knew that there was a message that needed to get out for so many people who were struggling with living in sexual integrity and sexual purity. I finally sent the manuscript to Dr. Munroe, and when that forward came back, I was hollering and screaming in the house, just running, hollering and screaming. And that began a relationship with my Papa for the last several years. One time he had come into town, and our relationship as father and daughter was still relatively new for me. He was in my town, and he finished one of his sessions. He had several sessions to go. And when he comes down from one of the first sessions, he sees me in the back of the room. He gets down from the stage after he's over there signing books. There's a long line. He comes to the back of the room. He's running back there. Daughter, he gives me a big hug. And so I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm glad you're here. I'm going to stick at every session. He says, no, because I want you to take her shopping. I said, her? Who is her? He says, your mom. And my mind was like, oh my goodness. Okay, like this is insane. Our relationship was relatively new as father and daughter, and I had never heard him refer to her as mom to me ever. And now he is entrusting me with his wife to take her shopping, to just get her in the car, like no security, you're not going to follow me or track me. She gets out to the car and I'm driving like 20 miles per hour, taking her shopping. Listen, I had precious cargo in the car. I was scared to go beyond 20. Don't you dare laugh at me. I had to make sure I got this man's wife back to him. We were in the car and she began to minister to me in that car. And there were some precious secrets she shared with me in regards to parenting, how they raise their own children, how I even now apply that into my own life. She was madly in love with Papa. She said to me one time, she says, my favorite thing to do is to play footsies with your dad. And she says, he makes me tea every night and runs my bath water. She said, I'm going to tell you something, daughter. She says, you know, Papa always gets up and tells the story about how he gives me this unlimited expense account every month. And she said, you know what? I don't even care about buying me things. She said, I buy a perfume every single month for your Papa, and only he is allowed for that fragrance. I share it with no one else. I was like, I can't wait till I get married. I want a husband so I can buy my own perfume just for him, that nobody else is able to smell that scent. And she was laughing at me because I took off in their living room, running around shouting. And when Papa comes home, I said, Dad, when I get married, I want to marry a husband. I want a husband just like you. He said, well, what took you so long to figure that out? I loved the precious memories that they shared with me in terms of love and relationships. And they showed me the true essence of what marriage and what love truly is, unconditional, undying love. And I love it because guess what? My mom and my papa, they never argue. I mean, I know you see people all the time and they think that that's normal in a relationship, but not with mom and papa. They absolutely loved and adored each other so much that they didn't have room for any arguments because they was always trying to outdo each other and serve one another. And so they showed me magical mysteries about love and marriage that I will always treasure. My papa always said to me, and I tear up thinking about this, he would always say to me, daughter, he says, when you are ready to get married, when a man wants to marry you, you bring him to papa. You never marry anyone or even decide to marry one unless you bring him to your dad. And someone said to me at my Bahamas Faith family, he said to me, he said, now that papa is gone, what are you going to do? Who are you going to bring him to? I said, he's going to have to read every single one of papa's books, and he's going to have to recite them to me verbatim. And I don't know about any of you, but I would encourage you, if you want to impact and change your life, I would encourage you to download any of his messages, order his books, because it will supernaturally change and impact your life. So one of the things that my papa always said is that in these last days, what you're going to see is Christians versus kingdom believers, the citizens of heaven. You're going to see a drastic war between them, a conflict with people who are simply Christians who don't live for Christ, who just bear the name, and those who are believers, who are kingdom citizens, who actually live the word wholeheartedly. And my focus, of course, is going to be bringing that message through our television show, through Thai TV, is that you will see that the purpose of our show is going to be how to take what you live Monday through Saturday, what you get on Sunday morning, how to live that Monday through Saturday, how to live this life as a Christian, that we don't live in the middle, but we actually live the Word of God, that the Word of God becomes the final authority in our life, that this is how we live. It's the lifestyle of faith. And so you'll see that through Thai TV. And also, when Papa set us down, he talked about what his plans were for 2015. And one of those things, of course, we were planning to do a singles conference in 2015, and I know it was going to be exhilarating. Papa loved developing singles. The other thing that Papa was going to be focusing on was the preservation of family. And so you were going to be seeing books and a lot of messages and teaching on family, marriage, parenting. And so you will see a lot of that in Thai TV. My goal and my focus and mission is to live out my Papa's vision and his legacy along with our family in Bahamas Faith Ministry. And I would encourage those of you whose lives were impacted by Dr. Myles and Ruth Ann Munroe, that you will continue to allow the legacy to live on, that not only that you not let that thing that's on the inside of you die, but that you awaken up that purpose and that potential on the inside of you. And again, I encourage you to download any of his messages, get the books, and pour that thing into you until purpose comes alive. And I want to thank you all for all of the messages, inboxes, the condolences, the prayers that you've sent us. And also, I want you to go to bfmmm.com and get the address. Send cards and letters to Teresa and Myles Jr. and the Bahamas Faith Ministry family. Let them know that you still stand with Dr. Myles and Ruth Munroe, that you will help continue the vision and the legacy. And I appreciate you all so much for support of this ministry, because we will continue on the legacy and the vision of Dr. Myles and Ruth Ann Munroe. There's no one else like you. There is no one else.
Okay.
Woo! The star is born.